exactly when we will suddenly be appearing live. It says we are live. That's what it says. So that's probably what it is. I am broadcasting for the third time today on this Intuitive Public TV. And now at this very moment, we are joined again by Kato McNickle from the Wolf Criers Club. And we're going to talk about art challenges. That's our thing today.
All right.
You are wearing green.
I am. This is my shenanigans t-shirt. I like shenanigans.
Awesome.
It's the day for that. I think the hat
for shenanigans. Awesome. I went to find my green scarf, and my green scarf was in the laundry. I was like, what? Okay. I have green growing life energy, forests of green growing life energy.
I think green is the creative aura too. So there you go.
That would be appropriate.
I directed a play once by these two women who were older than I was, and one of them could see auras, and she used to just talk about my aura during rehearsal. And she also said it was a brilliant green, and then sometimes it was like, oh, your aura is so bright today. I was like, oh, okay, good.
That is really groovy. So today is a day where a lot of people are celebrating their Irish heritage and Irish heritage in general, even for people who do not themselves have Irish heritage. I have a lot of different Irish ancestral connections. So it's very meaningful to me to get to explore Irish folklore, and Wolf Criers has an art challenge for today and the next 7 days that's all about Irish folklore, which I feel is very exciting.
I'm excited by it too. And the person that spearheaded this is Kayleen Sokol, who is I think she's the youngest member of Wolf Criers. And she loves doing these art challenges as she's been learning to make illustrations, learn to be an illustrator. And she's also learning how to write, and she's been practicing in the space. And because part of what we do when we get together is we look at each other's work and we talk about it. So we are helpful in that way. And we have an array of experience. Like one guy he's total pro, and he designs toys for Target and other places. But he's also part of the Wolf Criers Club, and he helps us out a lot, and he's developing his own work. But Kayleen is really exploring her whole youthful ambition to become a writer illustrator, and her illustration is so much fun. But she's found so much value in various art challenges, and she asked if we could do one. And the thing with Wolf Criers is we can make it whatever we want if you want to put in the time, and we as a group then would talk about it, and it's definitely her vision. And then we've been working to help. And part of what this is beyond the art challenge, though, is it's our first time trying to coordinate an event together. So we're learning how to do that and how to get the word out, what things work, what things would we do differently for next time. We've already come up with a list starting last week when we had a meeting, and we had some great ideas, but they were like, well, it's a little too late to do those, but for next time, those would be good to put in place. But things for helping to churn interest and different ways we could investigate that. So it's kind of like keeping a notebook for next time. And in the meantime, when she suggested Irish folklore, a lot of us were just like, what a great idea. That'll be so fun. And she came up with the list. And then some of us and I'm into folklore and myth stuff and study it a lot. And there were some I had to look up.
They're great. They're really great. And you posted one. I was like, maybe it's the second to last post that's up on wolfcriers.substack.com right now. You have a list of the challenge focuses, and then you say a little bit about them so that people can sort of orient themselves if they've never come across those terms before.
Yes. And I was trying to avoid using imagery just so it wouldn't interfere with other people coming up with whatever you decide your interpretation is of Leprechaun, go for it.
Great. One of the amazing things about this for me, and I know for a lot of our community members in the Intuitive Network, is that it can be really, really difficult to join something like this if you don't have some kind of ongoing conversation with somebody who's part of it. Like there's a relational component that's really important. And for those that don't have any other connection to it, when they get to watch our public media, either live or after the fact, they have a connection with me and I have a connection with you. And it can really help people get involved where otherwise they don't have an opportunity. So it's exciting for me to get to talk about something like this, because even if like one little doodle, like just like scribble doodle, you don't have to be like a professional artist. And in fact, you mentioned in one of those posts, you don't even have to make visual art. You don't have to draw or paint something. Do you want to say more about your feelings about all the many kinds of art that might participate in this challenge?
Well, it could be a short story, a personal story if you wanted to, about Today's today the first one. We're kicking off with leprechauns, just so that's why we're talking leprechauns right now today. And each day it changes. There's puka and a few other things, banshee. But today we're launching with leprechauns, and it could be in the form of, if the written word is something you enjoy more, it could be that. It could be a poem. It could be a word description of leprechauns, a short story if you would like to share that, or even a portion, a paragraph or so of something, or art. It could be doodles. It could be something you draw on a napkin.
Like a needlepoint, crochet.
It could be crochet. Well, see, my leprechaun story. I've been trying to figure out how to write about this a little bit, and I don't know if I'll write about it today, but at some point this opened up this memory from when I was in grade school. My art teacher had, Mrs. Putnam, had this whole story about how she had us make leprechaun traps, which sometimes you have children do, and you make different things that maybe you could use. And then she had photographic evidence of her leprechaun trap capturing a leprechaun, and she would bring in different photos of how she was taking care of this leprechaun, and how they had become friends, and different wishes that it was granting. But what she had done was she had created a little character she had made out of, it was this little sculpture, but it was a doll like thing, like flocked wool, and so it was bendable, and she had made it so you could move it, and she would put it, she took pictures of it all over the place, and she'd bring the different photographs in to show us the adventures with this leprechaun. And then one day she said, well, I'll bring in the leprechaun so you can meet the leprechaun. And near the end she did bring it in, and then we saw the art object itself and got to investigate that, and that impressed me so much as a child.
That's immersive.
She'd created this story and stuck with it, and then did the photos, and then shared with us later the object itself, and then encouraged us to make, what would you make, and what would you do, and how can that be part of fuel storytelling. So that was like that intersection of, we create the story is in the objects or the art that we're creating, or the representation. What are those things that underpin it, and how do you follow through on that, and the enchantment. But then there's also the little cheeky bit where we understand the line about reality, but you choose how far do you want to step into it at any one moment, and play along. And yeah, we would have these mad debates too about whether we thought it was real.
Wow, that's amazing. We talk a lot about metafiction, how we are living in the story in all of these different ways. Certainly, okay, so you said photography, sculpture, doll making. There are many, many forms of art that someone could, bring a picture of, or, maybe somebody might post a video of an interpretive dance on YouTube, like their leprechaun dance.
That could be it. And then if you do the hashtag, we're going to be looking daily to see what might be there with the hashtag, which I should have prompt, but what is it? I think it's Wolf. Criers Art Challenge. I think that's what it's called. I'm trying to remember. I've been so immersed in this.
Well, I just saw it. I saw it like, okay, wait, why is my browser not working?
Let me see if I can go. It's right there on all the, it's the weirdest thing. I've been seeing this graphic for a month. But wait, what is the?
There we go. Hashtag Wolf Criers Art Week.
Art Week. That's it.
Okay,
we are planning to do more of these. And And Kayleen, who knows things about these, wanted to have a hashtag that was specific enough that it was unique, it was ours, but also flexible enough that it could move into the future. I was like, well, that is a really great way to think about that. And it's not necessarily something I would have thought of because I haven't done these art challenges before. But there are a couple of Wolf Criers who have done a few different challenges and they're totally into it. And then, yeah, it's like they've done Inktober, which happens in October.
Right. I loved you had on Wolf Criers, you had a big list of a lot of different challenges. And I was browsing through those and I was like, could I do this? Is there some way that I could do this? My rehab, like my ability to make art in a more diverse way has really just started. I haven't been able to do it for most of the past decade, most of the time. So like, can I actually be involved in some of these things? And what, I mean, ultimately I did draw something for something that I don't remember, but I was like, well, maybe the thing to focus on is Wolf Criers because I know someone and I'm talking to someone who's involved in it and that will like help my brain. So do we want to draw something? Maybe people who are watching this now or who tune in later can sit here with us for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah.
And we will all draw together or whatever, you know, make another kind of art, paint, dance, crochet.
Absolutely. And things don't have to be big. Like you've got a bigger pad. If you've got big pads, that's great. You've got little things. And also I worked with Linda Berry, who she has this, when you work with Linda Berry, who's this cartoonist, writer person, she has you do like just work with index cards and you flip the index card over to the blank part and you draw with Flair pen and you don't do it in pencil first and you play a song and when the song's done, your drawing's done and you just kind of have fun and you don't worry about it and you just draw the way when you were a little kid and you would just draw because you loved to draw and it didn't matter if you knew what a leprechaun looked like. Right. And it was a marvelous experience working with her because of that. And she was also like, you don't need precious tools to work with. You know, what is that little thing inside you that used to just love to draw and not worry about whether it was going to come out at the other end with any kind of judgment on it.
Any kind of pen, any kind of pencil, any kind of crayon, any kind of marker, whatever you got. A little like a little corner of a scrap of paper, like a little like you just got a scrap of paper somewhere, like maybe there's a, you know, we all people get these things in the mail that you're like, oh no, there's more of this like junk mail, but maybe there's a blank spot on the back of one of those pieces of paper if you don't have other paper. I am very fortunate that I have art supplies. The people, this is what I just started a little bit ago. The people who have supported me and who have supported the network so that I and others could access art supplies. We are really, really grateful to those people. So I am gonna draw something that has to do with a leprechaun because that's today's prompt.
Today is leprechaun. Yeah, I've already started sketching a little bit.
And I even I was looking recently because I knew this was coming up and then I was thinking, oh wow, like because I had been listening recently to this book that's been in my family the whole time I've been alive, called The Crock of Gold by James Stevens.
Oh, what a beautiful title.
Have you? Yeah, it's a really interesting book and bits of it have been filtering through into my awareness for basically my whole life. I haven't even read the whole thing from the beginning to the end, but I've been listening to it and I was listening to the beginning and there's this part where a man's cat kills a robin on the roof of the house and the leprechauns get angry and then they have a feud and they're very upset. And so this person goes and finds them in this hollow of this tree and they have to knock at the tree in this particular way and say, hey, can we talk about this? Because this is a really challenging time. I didn't mean for my cat to kill that bird. I don't think that's exactly how it went, but it's It's something like that. And I was really enjoying that. The audiobook is really beautifully done. Let's see. I need this leprechaun to have a hat. Like this.
What's your mind with a hat?
And I'm not worrying about making this like pretty or something. I'm just like, my brain has some idea of maybe what a leprechaun might look like. And it's just like happening on the page. And it can just be scribbles. Scribbles. And here is this person's nose. And then what it seems like he should be holding something. Here we go. And he's going to be holding this. And doesn't it have to be a boy leprechaun? It could be a girl leprechaun. It could be a gender nonconforming leprechaun.
Absolutely.
It could be an animal leprechaun. It could be all kinds of leprechauns.
Yep.
It could be the spirit of all leprechauns. It could be like a diffuse kind of glowing light that is the essence of leprechaunness in the universe. Like you don't have to try to draw a face and hands and a coat or hat, or you just be like, here's some color right here. And I'm feeling the spirit of all leprechauns. And that can be any art, can be anything.
Absolutely. Like, and that was also why I was thinking, oh, if somebody wanted to go out and photograph what the spirit of a leprechaun would be, or, like daffodils coming up, that could be your, where the leprechauns would be.
We do have daffodils coming up here.
So whatever the interpretation, part of it, most of it is just like, what is the intent? So like, what is the story about why there's a leprechaun spirit in here for you or something? That can be, it's just an interesting way to think about things, I find. What is that story? How does this tell part of this story? I'm trying to.
What I have heard a lot about is leprechauns and fairies protecting the natural world. And protecting the spirit of, I mean, this is how I've heard them, protecting the spirit of true wealth, not like, I don't know how to say modern economic currency wealth, like not like green dollar bills, but like the gold of the earth, like protecting the earth's wealth. And we think of the earth's wealth as the natural world itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's always what I've gotten from stories like that. I'm going to make a bird right here. This is the leprechaun's bird friend.
That's a good idea.
And then I'm going to make some star sparkles. I am a happy leprechaun, and I just happen to be carrying my gold to this hollow in this tree where I will safeguard it. And I will, if greedy people show up, then I will maybe play games with them and they will regret having been greedy, something like that.
One of the things I always liked when I was, especially a kid, when I would draw, is the stories that I would come up with while I was drawing the thing. Yes. The drawing was such an investigation. This is more just a character study. This leprechaun is not doing very much in this thing. He just exists.
The existence of leprechauns is important too. My high school, I didn't really understand a whole lot about football at the time, but the high school that I went to, it was the Fighting Irish. It was leprechauns as the what do you call it? The mascot.
Very good. I think my color stuff is back there.
And then he can have a red beard. Mm-hmm. What are things that leprechauns usually have? I'm gonna look at your listing on the website. Let's see.
Right, I like the idea of the bird friend.
Yeah.
My next leprechaun that I draw, I might have him on a bird or something. I mean, relating with a bird. This one is just like a straight up leprechaun standing there.
So I will read from this page at Wolf Criers. I think this is the second to last post. Day 1, Leprechaun. These small, solitary fairy folk possessing magical powers are often depicted in green garb with red beards or locks. Leprechauns might play tricks on human folk, cobble shoes, or guard pots of gold at the end of, rainbows, of course. When caught by humans, they may grant 3 wishes in exchange for freedom. Wow, I've been taught to be really careful about leprechauns. Be very respectful of the leprechauns. The leprechauns can mess you up if you are rude. Don't be rude to the leprechauns. And don't try to steal their gold. It's not nice. I don't think that's nice.
It's not nice.
Okay, so rainbows. That's a really important part of this too. Rainbows like this. There's a red. And here's I'm so grateful that I have markers. Really long time I did not have markers. You can just draw a rainbow by drawing something rounded and stripy. It's important for us to use our imaginative skills, not only in making art, but in looking at art, because even the faint suggestion of something can allow our body brains to fill in the blanks. And we can see so much more than was actually put directly on the page. This is a robin. So I'm making her brown. This one is a live robin. This is not the robin that the man's cat killed in the book. Blessings to robins. We have a lot of robins here. Robins always, they remind me to for my shoulders back and my breastbone sort of lifted, like a posture, like a self-respect thing, because robins are very they hop around and they have this sort of upright posture.
Oh yeah. I was watching a pair of robins yesterday in my yard.
Go. Yeah, we have like large numbers of them. That they're like exploring in the back behind the house rather frequent. I don't think I've seen them lately, but it just started to be spring, so maybe soon. There we go. There's Robin. And here are some magical sparkles. Magical sparkles. I learned some new terms when I read that list that y'all posted. I had not looked up, and I really I'm really into mythology. I'm really into the different beliefs of different peoples, because I have a lot of different ancestral lineages, and so I want to know about all of them, and so I study as many of them as I can. But these I hadn't even come across the marrow, Merrow. And I was also not familiar with now I don't know how to pronounce it either. Aoshi. How do you say it?
I think Aoshi, but there's a couple different names for them, which I included when I looked them up. I was like, who? And then, because that one sent me down a rabbit hole with because of the things that I realized, Tolkien borrowed quite a bit from, because they are said to have moved into the West, and because they live in the fairy mounds that are tombs, and that those would be then placed at the West. And like, what does the West mean? And then in Lord of the Rings, that's where the elves are leaving to, the West Havens. I recognized, this is what was some of the mythic tropes that Tolkien was drawing upon.
I love looking at the, things that are in popular media or popular parlance, and then tracing them back, like etymology. When you study etymology, what you find out is that like a huge number of words, maybe like every single word, used to mean its opposite. You find it all over the place, where words now tend often to mean something completely different than they meant 100 or 200 years ago or longer. I have found that so interesting, and the ways that people tell stories and the archetypes that people invoke as important in their lives and in their families. That's really amazing to me.
Well, I think one of the things that I started looking into when I was studying at Brown in 06 through 09, and they have an open curriculum. So in addition to what I was studying, which was ancient performance in Greco-Roman and Sanskrit cultures, I was also looking into cognitive science, neuroscience, linguistics, and some other things. That was mostly about art and perception and what do we do when we go to theater. But some of what I started looking into was the difference between the newer parts of our brain with the more modern parts, which hold language and can, but the older parts of our brain don't. They cannot process language. It doesn't all happen in the same place.
Yeah.
And how new language is to who we are as humans, especially also written language, which is even newer, being able to recognize and comprehend written language. And I was looking because I had read a philosophy thing about archetype being in this place where the visual part of our brain that doesn't have language, how does it communicate with the part that does have language, the storyteller part that tends to take over and gets because we talk with it.
Yeah.
But what is that place? And there was some philosophical discussions about, is that the place where archetype emerges from, and how does that happen? And I started looking into was there a lot of science around that, but that also got me looking into dreaming and dream studies. How does dreaming function? What is the cognition during dreaming? How does that relate to going to the theater? And how does it relate to the suspension of disbelief? Because of the cognitive rules, there's a difference between how we emotionally react to something in a dream, which stays true to us, versus the cognitive recognition of, yeah, but I know that entering through a door through the floor in the restaurant is not a way we would enter a restaurant. That part, if I was awake, I would realize. But in the moment when I was upset because the woman was taking too long to get through the door, my emotion in the moment was the same. And I was like, oh, well, how does this speak to when we go to see plays? And you have the scene breaks. And if they take too long, you start remembering that you're seeing a play. But if they don't, it can break. If you break it more like a dream, because we'll make sense of it when the things are really close together, and then we make a narrative in our heads, and how that can be emotionally satisfying for the viewer if we're quick about it, because we're used to creating narrative from broken structures in that way.
That is really amazing. And I would love to talk a lot more with you about that, because those kinds of modalities are really important to the way we're making and sharing art, where the challenging things that people are going through in their lives are often things that they really can't talk to others about. They can't describe it without other people being like, oh, wow, I didn't realize this was going on. This is upsetting. I don't know how to process it. And so one of the approaches that we take, and we do a lot of work on this that hasn't even, been in public yet, like in our private groups. How do we produce storytelling? How do we produce dream experiences so that people can just kind of settle into the entertainment of it or the flow of it, and then they learn things, but they're not confronted with those things. And they don't have to confront like the reality of something horrible. They can be introduced to it as like, well, here is a really brave character who's confronting a monster in a dream or in a story, so that, there's that feeling of remove from it. And then maybe later they can realize, oh, wow, like that thing in that story, that does happen in real life in this other way, but they've already processed a lot of it because it was a dream to relax into that other people are experiencing. So I really love talking about modalities like that. That's amazing.
How's your leprechaun coming? I don't have my color stuff, so mine's just black and white.
I didn't even think I would have my color stuff, and then it was right there behind me. I did not even plan that.
That was good thinking.
Okay. Oh, but wait. Brown, 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 brown. Scribble, scribble, scribble. When in doubt, scribble. Scribbles are very artistic.
Scribbles are also sometimes a good place to start.
Yes.
And then you make things out of the scribble.
There we go. Okay, that's it. Let's just call it. Oh gosh, we're at the 30-minute mark. There we are.
Mine's just in there.
Oh wow!
Look at that. Oh, beautiful.
I love your leprechaun.
And then they like to see each other.
I want to see it. Please keep holding it up so I can look more closely so my eyeballs can see. Oh, that's so awesome. He's very he's very there's a word, self-possessed. Like he has a presence.
I'm just doodling. Yeah, but doodles are fun.
Now my markers are everywhere. That is such a privilege. It is such a privilege for me to get to have markers everywhere. By the way, anyone who watches this broadcast, if you are having trouble getting a hold of art supplies and you would like to coordinate a flow of art supplies to reach you, I am always interested in that conversation because people have been very generous with me to help me get art supplies. So I want to make sure anybody who sees this broadcast knows to come and talk to me if you want to collaborate on how we get you art supplies. Like, let's figure something out. That's what I like to do.
Very good.
Wow. So that was our half hour.
There it is.
Is there anything else we want to bring in before we wrap up?
Well, I just hope people will doodle, and if you share it, you can share it on Substack. I've made a conversation thread, or if you just post it as a comment, even on the Wolf Criers thing, I'd find it because there aren't so many people. There's a few hundred people following us and things, so it's not difficult to manage. And I think don't worry about doing it wrong. Or if you're on Instagram, you can use the hashtag. I think Instagram. I have a Facebook group that I had started for it, so you can find Wolf Criers Club on Facebook if that's where you want to put your thing. And I think also somebody is monitoring Blue Sky, which I do not have. I did not sign up for because I'm just like trying to step away from as much social media as possible.
Yeah.
And do the Substack thing. And I love the writer and illustrator community that's on Substack.
I do too. It's really amazing. It's been really great to discover. Well, I also got to discover you. Also, I had found you elsewhere, but then you were also on Substack, and so I got to follow a lot more easily, which was really awesome.
Well, I really like that there's a beautiful line between like the professionalism of the people that are in that space, the various like experience levels. And they're also very welcoming. So it's like you're almost on somebody's couch and they're inviting you over to see some of their art and talk about art or their writing or their poem stuff. And also they love talking. Part of what I like about the space is it really encourages you to share other people's work and talk about it. Because I just totally at the core of my thing in art for the past 25 years has been creating a culture of championing, that we champion each other's work. We need to know about it so that we can then put it forward into the world when we're in spaces where we get invited. I also want to be able to have other people to be able to talk about their work and help them get things, because I'm not going to get passed over because somebody else gets some shine on their work. Art is different than other kinds of things where the more there is, the more there is. So
yeah. The more we lean in for one another, the more regenerative resourcing there is for everybody, the more collaborative energy we can access.
That's what you're about too. So thank you very much for creating this space and for asking me here today.
Oh, we did it at the last minute. I didn't know if that was going to work out, but it did. It was magical for St. Patrick's Day.
Yay. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. To our viewing and listening audience, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Come subscribe to wolfcriers.substack.com and draw things. I'm going to draw more things. Thank you, Kato.
You're welcome. Thank you.
See y'all soon.